Volfas Engelman Pilzeno.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Here is yet another one from the Lithuanian brewery Volfas Engelman, or Volfas Engelman. Not sure how that's pronounced in Lithuanian. Volfas, possibly. The V, is it Germanic? I don't know. But it's a Pilsner that they've come up with, and I've heard good things about this. Apparently, so in Lithuania during the interwar period, i.e. between the, well, are they talking about the First World War or are they talking about post-war, post-Second World War? I'd imagine it's post-Second World War, because I think Lithuania was part of the Polish Commonwealth at the time of the First World War, and there was all sorts of shenanigans going on around that time during World War One. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is, when they say interwar period, I think they mean post-war, post-Second World War. But what it was, they're saying that this was the most popular style of beer, and it made up for 62% of the sales of their beer during that period. And looking at the brew sheet, which I will get onto in a minute, they have tried, from what I can gather, they have tried to do what I can only judge as a hybrid Pilsner, a cross between a Czech Pilsner and a German Pilsner, which is interesting. Now, I really didn't have high hopes for this brewery because, put it this way, if I can pick up a Lithuanian beer in a supermarket round the corner from me, I'd imagine that they're tied to some big corporation who can, or some big distribution organisation who can pump this out at a rate of knots. Now, Volfas Engelman do sell a lot of beer in Lithuania. They're one of the most popular brewers in Lithuania, and if they're brewing on that sort of scale where they can export to the United Kingdom, and I would imagine the rest of Europe as well, I imagine they're brewing on quite a big scale. That's not a bad thing, because other good brewers do that as well, but it made me a little bit wary of them. And I tried one of their porters the other day, or what they called it, an imperial porter, but it was nothing of the sort. It was more like an Irish red ale, or even a Scottish red ale, and it was really nice. I was really impressed by the flavours on it. It wasn't a porter, so I was a little bit disappointed in the description, but the beer was really good. So they've gone up a little bit in my estimation, and I've also tried some of their wheat beer as well. Now, the wheat beer wasn't that great. I would say it was akin to something that like you'd get in Aldi or Lidl, you know, the Patronus or the Rheinbacher stuff, which for the money, it isn't a bad wheat beer, but I always think with them sort of beers, if you're prepared to pay a little bit more, you can get a much better wheat beer for it. But if you're in a pinch and you really do want to drink a wheat beer, then that is not a bad option. It isn't bad. But here we are with a Pilsner. Now, what I do like, again, and a couple of other things I like about this brewery, they give you a full pint. And when it says a pint, where it's got it written there, it's got 1 pint. Coming from a country that has obviously adopted the metric system, why they put a pint in a can, I don't know, but I am certainly not complaining. And it is actually 568 millilitres, which is an imperial pint. And that's rare in a brewery. The only other brewery I can think of off the top of my head that do that, and there may be others, but the only one that I can think of at the moment is Sam Smith's. They do 568 mils in their bottles, which is a pint. Everywhere else you normally get 500 ml. That's the standard, certainly for Germany, etc. Over here now there's a trend coming up where you're getting 440 mils in cans and in some bottles as well, which I think is disgusting. You've got Beck's doing 275 millilitre bottles of beer and charging you for 330ml, which I think again is taking the fucking piss. But I won't drink Beck's ever again. If I do, it'll be in Germany, or it will be from the cans of export Beck's that you get over here. I've done a couple of videos on Beck's, and the best one you can get is the ones you can get in the cans. Avoid the bottles at all cost. There's something strange going on with them. They're brewed by AB InBev, and they're not what they seem to be. Anyway, I'm going off topic here. Another good thing about this brewery, and what I do like, is they put tin foil on top of the can. Now, you may think that's a marketing gimmick, but it's not. It does serve a purpose. I've mentioned it in all the videos that I've reviewed the Volfas Engelman beer. That's a really nice touch, and I would like to see that done by more breweries, or more retailers, even if the breweries don't do it. Because if you've got cans that are being stored, and it's the same for bottles as well, but cans especially, some people drink out of cans. Now, I definitely don't recommend that, but if you do drink out of a can, then you don't know what's been on top of that can. If it's in a box, then yeah, it's going to be fine. But if you've just got a huge stack of beer cans that have been stored God knows where, you don't know what kind of vermin has been running over all them cans of beer. Obviously, if there's rats or mice, they're going to urinate on top, and rats and mice urine is very fucking dodgy indeed. It contains Veal's disease, which is a very nasty waterborne disease. So that I do like, and they do make a point of saying that as well. I've always thought about that, even when I used to drink beer out of a bottle. I shudder when I think about it now. You really should, if you bought cans, and you can, no pun intended, always drink out of a bottle. Always drink out of a glass, because it will allow the beer to carbonate. It will put a head on it. You will enjoy the beer much more. So that's my advice to you. If you're going to drink out of a can or a bottle, don't get a glass, and you'll enjoy it much more. You will not feel as bloated, because the beer will get a chance to carbonate. Some of the carbon dioxide will be released, and it won't be released in your stomach, so you won't feel as bloated, and you can drink more. There's a method to my madness. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's get on to this beer. Just before I do, if you're wondering about a history of the brewery, just look at the other Volfas Engelman reviews. I do cover it in there. I'm not going to keep going over the history every single review. Some reviewers are going to get tired of it, so that's what I'm going to do. Let's get on to the beer. Okay, as I just mentioned, this is a pint can. It is 568 millilitres. It is 4.7%. It is a Pilsner, according to them. And as is common with these Volfas Engelman beers, everything is in Lithuanian. Now, if you think my German's bad, you should hear my Lithuanian. It is absolutely fucking shocking. I was in a bit of a quandary at the start of this video as to what to call this, because I'm looking on it and it looks like Pilseno, they've written now. So I'm going to go with that, Pilseno. But of course it is a Pilsner, because it says Premium Pilsner there. And they don't give much information on the brew sheet, but they do give an indication as to what's in it. So there is Lithuanian Pilsner malt. Now don't laugh at that. I was very sceptical about that until I tried their Imperial Porter, and they said they had Lithuanian Pilsner malt in that, and it was really nice. So I'm assuming that's what the base malt is in this, and it was good. There was some quite nice malty flavours in there. They also do use some German Cara Red malt as well, which really did make it stand out as being a good beer. The hops they've got in here, they have got Sarts hops, and I'm not sure whether it's extract or whether they're full cone or just loose leaf hops. I don't know. I would imagine it's hop extract if they're brewing on this kind of a scale, or maybe even hop pellets. And they say they've got a mixture of German noble hops in here. So what that is anybody's guess. But from the ingredients now, obviously the quality does go a long way. But just by going by what they've put in there, it does promise to be reasonably good, providing there's good quality ingredients in there. And as I said before, if this is being distributed at on quite a big scale, then maybe quality will suffer. But I'm not going to judge until I've tasted. So let's shut up and let's get it open. Right, before we do, I'm going to take off that. I just want to show you this, all right? This is the protective foil cap, and it actually does say it on here, protected can, and keeps it clear. Keeps it clean, sorry, keeps it clear. Twat. That's what you get on the top of it, and that just sits on there. So the top of your can is nice and clean. I won't be drinking out of a can though, because that's just not English. In fact, it is. You see so many fucking twats doing that, drinking out of a can. And I used to do it as well. Oh, the days of ignorance. Right, there it is in the glass. Now, immediately, saying it's a Pilsner, it doesn't look much like a Czech Pilsner. I mean, Czech Pilsners are a lot, I wouldn't say a lot darker, but they're more amber. They've got more of an amber hue to it from my experience. And this is very reminiscent of a German Pilsner. So what are we getting on the nose? Yeah, it's sort of got a lot of lemon citrus, a little bit of sulphur on there. Little bits of, or little notes of herbal and spicy hops in there, which you would expect from noble hops. But the aromas aren't big. So I'm not sure what to expect. Now, if it's a mix of a Czech and German Pilsner, I really do not know what to expect. And because it's not just got Saat hops in there, there's German hops in there, I really don't know. So why don't we just taste it, eh? Bottoms up. Oh, that's too sweet. That is very sweet. This is my first beer of the day, so maybe my palate needs to adjust, but that did come across as quite sweet on first mouthful, and I'm wondering what the hell is going on here. Let me dive in again. Again, there is metallic notes on this, and I have got that from every single can that I have had of Volfas Engelman beer. It seems to be a signature of theirs, metallic notes, which isn't good. And I do think it is coming from the can, because I don't know, that really doesn't come across on the aroma, but it's not tasting great. It tastes macro brewed, and the characteristics of a Pilsner to me are a bitter hop finish. So I'd be expecting some like alpha acid type bitterness along with spiciness, maybe a touch of earth as well from the noble hops, but really not getting that here. There's a sweetness to it. Mouthfeel is quite light, but there's nothing to really make this stand out for me. I don't think they've, well, I can only go by the brew sheet, and that did look good. They said that they had German hops in there, noble hops in there, and also Saat hops, which is classed as a noble hop as well. But it doesn't translate to the taste of this at all. There's no dry finish on it. I wouldn't, even the most popular Czech Pilsner, Pilsner Urquell, I wouldn't say it tastes anything like that at all. There's just too much of a sweetness to it. There's no hot bitterness on the arse end of it. It's like they put some kind of glucose syrup in there or some kind of sugar. And it's more like a Helles, and not a very good Helles at that. It doesn't have any of the characteristics of a Pilsner at all. I think the only reason they're calling it a Pilsner is because they put Sarts hops in it, and oh no, this is disappointing. As a beer, on its own merits, it's just okay. I mean, it's not chuck down a sink job. It's not that bad. But again, it talked a good fight, but it just hasn't delivered, which is a real shame. Now, I was really impressed with the Imperial Porter that this lot did, and I bought the two at the same time. I bought the Pilsner and the Imperial Porter, and I have to say, the Imperial Porter, as a beer on its own, was a hell of a lot nicer. It wasn't, as I say, it wasn't a porter. It was more like a red ale. But this is just, oh, it could be anything. And the carbonation's dying out on its arse. If you look at that, it's more or less, I wouldn't say flat, but there's no real carbonation in there now, and I'm just feeling very underwhelmed with this. So yeah, not great. So what is the verdict on Volfas Engelman Pilsner? In a word, disappointing. And I'll say disappointing because this beer really hasn't got any of the characteristics of a Pilsner. Certainly not of a Czech Pilsner, certainly not of a German Pilsner. In fact, it just tastes like a very, very average macro brewed lager-esque type beer. Having said that, it isn't the worst beer in the world. I have tasted a hell of a lot worse, but there is absolutely nothing about this beer that would make me want to buy this ever again. It just lacks character, basically, and even though it's talked a good fight of having German noble hops and the Sarts hops, they really don't come through at all. They could have used any type of hops in there, and yeah, it's just not coming through at all. The initial mouthful was just too sweet for me, and I knew it was going to go downhill from there. And well, when I say go downhill, I knew it wasn't going to have any of the characteristics of a Pilsner, and I just thought, oh, this is going to be a disappointment, and it was, unfortunately. So, what am I going to give that mark-wise? I'm going to give it, I can only give it 5 out of 10, and the only thing that's, the only saving grace in this, it's not a chuck down a sink job. There's no real nasty flavours. That metallic note was big on the initial mouthful, but my palate seems to have adjusted now, and yeah, it's sort of still there, and it does sort of come through in a lot of them Volfas Engelman beers, that metallic note, and I'm sure it must be coming from the cans. And God, that doesn't smell good at all. And I'm wondering what sort of cans they use in Lithuania, and whether that imparts a metallic note to the beer. But yeah, not great at all. So yeah, I can only give this a 5 out of 10. Now, before I sign off, I just want to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel. I started this channel about a year ago, and it's, well, more than a year ago now, and I've got just over 600 followers, which isn't bad for considering I'm not on social media. I'm on Instagram. I just post up shit on Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, you're not going to get any meaningful conversation or fucking meaningful photographs. It's just going to be me taking the piss and showing what an arse I'm making myself when I'm drunk. But I'm not out and out to get subscribers. That really doesn't do it for me. You know, I really do appreciate you for subscribing, and I do appreciate the comments as well. And if you do comment on a video and I don't get back to you immediately, don't take it personally. I normally do the comments in batches. So I'll look at the the comments and I'll answer them one after the other. So if you've commented on a lot of videos, you may one day see me replying to a hell of a lot. That's why I do it. I'm just too busy at the moment with other things. I've got the studio being built. I'm trying to record 2 albums with the band. I'm trying to practice during the day. I've got all the shit to do on my bikes and stuff, working on my bikes. I've got work, obviously. So life is pretty hectic at the moment, and it's rare that I get some time to sit down to myself and just concentrate on the channel. But I do like a beer in the evening, and if I'm having a beer, I'll get one that I can review. And that's what this was. I got this from round the corner, and yeah, it's disappointing. But that's a point I wanted to make to all you subscribers out there. I really do appreciate you subscribing, and I do really appreciate the comments. Even if I don't respond immediately, please leave comments. They're always interesting, and please especially leave nuggets of information that I may not know about, especially you foreign subscribers who can enlighten me on some of the words that I'm mispronouncing and the meaning of them as well, and also the beer culture. I know there's a few subscribers from Germany, there's a couple from Belgium, there's a couple from the Netherlands, there's one in particular, Jay. I really do appreciate your comments, mate, and also you helping me out on the pronunciation of the Flemish words, because as you know, I'm fucking useless when it comes to that. But yeah, I do appreciate all your subscriptions and all your comments, so big thanks for that. Back to this beer. That's 5 out of 10. That's not recommended, and I'm drinking this shit so you don't have to.